And just real quick, I've asked him to come up and read a reading from A Vision for You.
Tim Alcoholic. We have shown how we got out from under. You say, yes, I'm willing, but am I be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum like some righteous people I see? I know I must get along without liquor, but how can I? Have you a sufficient substitute? Yes, there is a substitute, and it's vastly more than that. It's a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus we find the fellowship, and so will you. How is that to come about, you ask? Where am I to find these people? You're going to meet these new friends in your own community. Near you, alcoholics are dying helplessly like people in a sinking ship. If you live in a large place, there are hundreds. High and low, rich and poor, these are future fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. Among them, you will make lifelong friends. You'll be bound to them with new and wonderful ties, for you will escape disaster together and you will commence shoulder to shoulder your common journey. Then you will know what it means to give of yourself that others may survive and rediscover life. You will learn the full meaning of love thy neighbor as thyself. It may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful once more. How can they rise out of such misery, bad repute, and hopelessness? The practical answer is that since these things have happened among us, they can happen with you. Should you wish them above all else and be willing to make use of your experience, we are sure they will come. The age of miracles is still with us. Our own recovery proves that. Thanks for letting me read.
Thanks. All right, and our speaker tonight on A Vision for You will be a good friend of ours, Matt A. from Wilmington, Delaware.
That's the best introduction I've ever gotten. Say, hey, there's Matt, you know. I know you're laughing, but I'm not. You know, it's like I get really uncomfortable. When somebody says good things about me, you know. And it's always been like that. I don't know why. I don't, you know, it's something that I have. Even in like the giving realm, like I'll give of my life. I'll give of my finances. I'll give of, you know, whatever I have to someone. But to take from someone is very uncomfortable for me, you know. And to receive compliments is uncomfortable for me. Because I know where I came from too, which is a very egotistical, selfish, and self-centered place. So, and I don't want that to, we all know if you've been here a little while, you know that ego will rebuild itself very quickly in multiple areas of your life. And I just don't want to, you know, ego to be rebuilding if I can do something about it, you know. So my name's Matthew Anderson. I'm an alcoholic and I'm also a drug addict. How's it going? It's an honor to be here at this event. This has been and look, and the cool part is I get to do A Vision for You. I think I got picked out of a hat to do that, you know, which is perfect, you know, because it shows that God is still working in my life, you know, and A Vision for You is actually a vision for you, you know. and is it Tina or Trina? Tina so eloquently talked about that. Exactly what had taken place, you know. I do want to read. There's a few things that I would like to read just before we you know, get into me talking all crazy, you know. For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, which is like friendliness and a livelihood, you know. Companionship and colorful imagination. This is in the beginning, right? So let me tell you where we are. In the beginning of our journey of alcoholism or drug addiction, whatever it was in the beginning, right? This is what it looked like. Companionship, colorful imagination. It means release from care, boredom, and worry. It's joyous intimacy with friends and the feeling that life is good, right? Remember that? Like I just drink and all of a sudden I'm like, You know, I'm ready. You know, what are we doing? The old pleasure, and it says, but not so with us in the last few days of heavy drinking. Now we go into the end, you know. The old pleasures, gone. They were but memories. But we continue to try to get back to that, you know. Like there's been times that I went to rehab and detox to get physically separated just so the alcohol and the narcotics would have an effect again, you know. Like I just want to get separated so when I do it again, at least it'll bring me back to this first part, but it never, oh my gosh, never, and I circled never, could we recapture the great moments of the past. There was an insistent yearning to enjoy life as we once did and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control. If I just drink this and sniff that, it's going to be a perfect combination. Some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and then one more failure. Does that sound familiar to you? You know? That's my life. That's my life. I continue to try to do this over and over again. In the beginning of this journey, you know, and we're going to get into some really cool stuff. It's talking about the most sordid spots, you know. We end up in the most sordid spots. Like I ended up, like when I'm in my alcoholism and it's full blown and literally like I've already tried all these avenues to get back, right? We're already at this jumping off point, right? As the book talks about, where I'm trying everything I can to get back to normal drinking. I just want to go to the bar. I just want to hang out with my friends, enjoy a couple Coronas with a lime, not a lemon, maybe a Sicilian kiss, and stay right there. But that has never happened. It's never happened. I go in, I have a couple Coronas with a lemon, not a lime. I have a Sicilian kiss. And then I'm drinking an Incredible Hulk, Hennessy and Hypnotic, in case you ain't know. And then comes the real stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like now, I might jump to like some Grey Goose, but it's usually Belvy. I don't know if you know about Belvedere, but Mr. Belvedere is my friend. You know, and then I start drinking, and then I'm like, hey, give me it straight up, because I don't want it on the rocks. So now it goes from a couple beers and just to feel good to immediately some Belvy to Flacco's in the parking lot. You know? Or G, or whatever his name is at the time. He's usually from the Dominican Republic. But I'm in a position, you know what I mean? And I don't know what your behavior is, because there's some things that we might get into here that you might think like, well, I'm not like that. So in the book, it tells us to describe, right? It talks about outlining the program of action. And even when Bill and Bob went to meet Bill Dobson, right, which we'll talk about, and Bill and Bob went to meet Bill Dobson, and they're talking to him, and he's like, yo, don't even waste your time, you know, but they're going over things like the mental obsession of what happens before, I'm talking about completely sober, before I take the first drink. And then that's what makes us the same. It doesn't matter. Like these dudes come from walks of life that were much different from me. So some of you might listen to my story or heard my story before and be like, well, I'm not that bad, you know? Like I've got 17 years of my life in prison. I get really violent and crazy and shoot people under the influence of alcohol and narcotics. I get out and do the same thing again, right? I end up OD'd from alcoholism at every hospital on the East Coast, right? I'm talking about flatline and get out and immediately do it again. Right, so you would listen to some stuff in the way I grew up and the things and be like, well, that's not me. Well, I'm like that when I read this book. Because I see people, and I can go off of Bill Story and Ebby Thatcher and Roland Hazard and go through all these guys that are in this book who came from money. They came from prestige. They didn't have issues in their life. You know, there wasn't, like they didn't come from trauma or any of that stuff. And then I realized what we're talking about. So let me explain. The physical part that we all identify with in this room, which is what you have to identify with this stuff to even venture into this journey that we're discussing and what Tina discussed and what I'm going to discuss. There's no other way to get through it besides going over these things and identifying with them. How many people said I'm an alcoholic at a meeting, you know? And then I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm at a meeting, so, you know, yes. But in my innermost self, I'm not fully conceding to that, nor do I even know just from coming to a meeting what that actually entails. I have no idea what you mean by that. What makes me an alcoholic, you say, you know? Well, physically, something happens to me that doesn't happen in a normal drinker. My cousin Eddie can go to the bar at McGlynn's, to be precise, and have a beer and a shot and leave. On a Friday night, all right, he might shoot a game of pool. Me, I have a beer and a shot, and he leaves. You know? And guess where he is on Monday? He's at work. I'm in North Philly. They're scraping me off the concrete, you know, or I'm incarcerated. That's how fast it happens for me. So my behavior is not what makes me an alcoholic. You know, it's the allergy. And the allergy is this. I pick up, as soon as I put something in me, something happens. And they even call it something in the book. They don't even know what to call this, so they call it something. Something happens to me. Physically. Where literally, boom. It's almost like you plugged me in. You know? I'm fully charged. As soon as that thing hits my stomach and I get that warm, fuzzy feeling, boom. You know? I got plugged in and all I can think about is more. That's it. While the other people are like, this is the spot. I'm like, bitch, this is not the spot. I'm like, if you want to come with me, I'll show you the spot, you know? And honestly, there is no spot, you know? This spot is vanished. I don't know where this spot's at, but it's gone, you know? And it's like, it comes so apparent. Now look, I'll be really blunt with you. Today, it's possible that I could leave here and have 2 drinks. It's possible. But I can promise you that all day, tomorrow, I will be thinking about the next time that I can have those 2 drinks, which will probably be tomorrow. You know? And then I would do that, and that might, listen, for some of us, that might last for a period of days, weeks, months even, you know, where you're moderating functionally a little bit, you know, but this is the thinking that we fail to understand, because I think like, oh, well, I'm controlling and managing it, but my brain is always like, don't stop, and I'm like, but I got to, and I'm clawing through the day trying to stop, right? So that's what I have, and physically, after I pass that point of, you know, wanting to stop anymore, you know, because whatever justification I come up with is sufficient, you know. Fuck it, right? I ain't like this job anyway, you know. She's a bitch, you know. You understand, like whatever the scenario is, the book talks about that can be from anger, worry, depression, or the like, whatever it is. And I don't like cursing, but I'm just telling you that I'm trying to relate to the thoughts that happen to me. Because it's always your thought. So I get to that point, and after I get past that jumping off place, right? Not the one of where I'm stopping, but the one of where I'm beginning. And now it becomes more important than physically anything. It starts to become more important than drinking water, eating food, going to sleep, sex, going to the gym, hang it up. I'm not doing none of that stuff. It has overpowered me and physically has full control of me. And now I'm locked in because the mental status is like I'm just on, like a machine gun, And I have that. Physically, does that happen to you? And if that happens to you physically, you may be suffering from something that I suffer from. But then there's another element to it. Because if that was the issue, then you got guys like, that we're about to get into. You got this guy like Bill Dobson who would have went to the hospital, who was there 8 times in 6 months. 8 times in 6 months this guy sounds just like me, I'm telling you. And get out, and if physical separation was enough, then Bill Dobson, me, you, would have got physically separated from the rehab, detox, counseling, your friend's couch, whatever it is. Prison for me is where it usually happens. And I get physically separated from a substance, nothing in my system. And if that were the issue, that would be enough. I would go to rehab, I'd get physically separated, life is good. I'll get my job back, my girl back, my house back, a car, I ain't come in here wanting much, man. I just wanted to be free. Like, I just wanted to stay out of prison. That's how minimal my goals was. When they talk about a life beyond your wildest dreams, my dream was just to stay out of prison. That's it. That's all I wanted. That's enough. And yet all of these things have happened. Anyway. But that's not the case. I can't get physically separated if I suffer from that first element of things that we were, discussing of more, When you put something in you and your brain goes, more, you're in trouble. So I got this other thing from the mental aspect, And you have to suffer from the first part, the physical part. We all do, And then there's this other element where I'm completely physically separated from drugs and alcohol. Nothing in my body. I can pee clean for the PO. You can take a hair follicle. You want a blood test. There's nothing in my system. I'm completely sober. Not only that, I'm not just talking about like I'm sober. I'm talking about I've had full education from Father Martin's Ashley and Chalk Talk, right? I've been to programs that have educated me on the 6 stages of DMRs, developmental models of recovery, core issues, all that stuff. Studied Terrence Gorski, so I'm educated, and I know tons. I have thousands of experiences that tell me if I pick up what's going to happen. You're going to jail, 100%, or you're dead. They're my 2 things. I don't know what yours looks like, but that's my 2 consequences. Happen every single time. Right? I'm going to jail. I'm going to die. Bare minimum, I have this mental and physical suffering. I got all of this stuff right before me. It's right before my eyes. I got all these consequences, right? All these experiences, and yet my brain, knowing all of this stuff, and I'm talking about not just one. I got thousands of these experiences. And yet my brain will tell me just one. however it says it, you know, whatever the case may be. It's usually in the parking lot of probation for me, you know. And I peed in the cup already. And I got 7 days before I got to pee again. So that's a main lie that happens to me. It says, well, you know, you peed in that cup. You got 7 days before you got to pee again. This is brilliant, you know. Just do one. And my brain is just like having a ball with itself. And literally there's this whole conversation happening inside of my head in a fraction of a second, you know. And it's like, oh, I mean, just one. I mean, this is probably a bad idea. And it goes, no. It's brilliant. You got 7 days, you know. And I'm like, you right? I've been for 5 years. This is, I mean, come on. Don't nobody's got this still after 5 years. And I tricked myself again into believing that I can do just one. And then, boom, physical. Just one turns into, I meant 1 day. You know, not just one, I meant 1 day. You're being unreasonable when you're telling me to stop. Then 1 day turns into don't do it 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row turns into 4. 4 turns into me wearing tracksuits and trash bags, running around the neighborhood because now I'm coming up on this urine test again, and I got to get this stuff up out of my system. So now I'm drinking kale shakes, you know, that my mom made and stuff from GNC, little cups of bleach or vinegar, you know the deal. Golden Seal, you know. All the way to a Whizzinator. You know? That may or may not be the same color as me. But it don't matter. I don't care. I'm just trying to pass this test. And then I don't pass the test, and I'm talking about in the span of a week, you know. And I'm not talking about what happens to me physically. We all understand that. That's so simple for all of us to relate to. But what makes us the same is this. I lie to myself when I'm completely substance-free and convince myself on why it's a good idea to start again, knowing what's going to happen. And if you suffer from that, then I'm just going to be honest with you. You were suffering from something that only a spiritual experience will come. And when I talk about spiritual experience and I'm talking about our Creator and, Spirit of the universe and stuff, I promise you they're not talking about a doorknob or a chair. And people laugh at that, but I promise you they are talking about doorknobs and chairs in some places. And a chair and a doorknob is not going to help Matthew Anderson when he's in the parking lot of probation to keep himself and from telling himself just one. So we go to this guy, right? So I wanted to explain what we all have. And when we have this, if you have that, what we discussed, that physical and that mental thing, then this is a vision for you. You know, this whole chapter, and it's, I do want to say this too. A lot of us don't go over this work, and we don't take our sponsees through this work, which may be a reason that Alcoholics Anonymous suffers in some areas, because there's so much information in these preceding chapters from page 103. It's unbelievable, the information that's in here. Like the power that's in these chapters. And we neglect to go over them. So, anyway, this is so cool. You got this dude, Abby Thatcher, Bill and Bob, who go and meet this dude. They know, so Bill has this experience with what I was just talking about. And when I'm in the parking lot of probation, no human is going to be able to tell me, convince me that just one, don't do it. Like no human power is going to be able to do that. There's no human power possible that can help Matthew Anderson while he's in the parking lot of probation not convince himself that just one is going to work, you know. You can have the most, look, so my girl's in the back, right? And we have this little girl. She's not biologically mine, but she's mine. And she is nonverbal autistic. Her name is JC. And I love this little girl. Man, it's hurting me not to spend any time with her this weekend. I'm telling you, it's gut-wrenching. Like, I love this little girl, you know. She goes, I owe you. And I'm like, I love you, baby, you know. And I love her more. I mean, my mother even, right? And I love my mother. And you can have JC and my mother in the car with me at that moment. Put Claudia in the mix. Put my brother in the mix. Bring him back to life. Have them all in the vehicle with me. And there's no more powerful human power than love. That is the most powerful human power you can think of. Love. And love with all of these people that I love so much in the car with me is not enough to keep me from convincing myself that just one, you know, I need help. That's why we need spiritual help. And when you break down the first step and we get into it so much, you know, and that's the importance of it. That's why there's like half of the work is the first step, you know. And most of it is just to keep you informed of yourself, to understand this is you. I can't trick myself into believing that I'm not one of you. I've been doing it my whole life, and the second that I convince myself that I don't have that, I am in trouble. The book says you need to be honest with yourself about the allergy, right? I can lie to you. I can tell my girl her butt don't look right in them jeans. I can tell my mom, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I cleaned the steps off, right? And I didn't. I can lie about, like, going into the store and, you know, it was too much for the Red Bull, so I pocketed it, right? And I can be dishonest about some stuff today. But if I am dishonest with myself, if I lie to myself that I have this, it's a matter of time before I'm dead or I'm in jail again, which are my main consequences. So I need something more than human power to convince me not to start, which is, you know, on my, I got multiple experiences of a second step where, like, God has restored my sanity, where, like, drinking came up and, like, bam, like, immediately, like, it's so much freedom. Like, that's the miracle of the program, where it's like, you know, just one, and then immediately it's like, bitch, that's a lie. You know? But I recognize that as the truth, that it's a lie. You understand? And it's like, oh my gosh. And I don't think about it and keep toying with it and flipping it over and juggling. It says, that's a lie. And I'm like, boom. And I keep moving through my day. And I don't even think twice about that thought that I had of just one anymore. It's powerful. Anyway, so they go in, they try to find this guy, right? So Bill has this second step experience that I just was referring to. And Bill goes in, he lost everything. He's in this spot, right? A bad spot, right? A business failure. And he's sitting in the what's the hotel called again? The Mayflower. I can't believe I forgot about that. So it's the Mayflower, and he's sitting there, and then he hears all the chatter coming in from the, you know, not the lobby, but they got a little bar in there, right? So he's like, I can go in there and have a ginger ale, you know? And he starts to try to convince himself with the lie that he can just go in there and chill, right? Because the disease isn't like, alcoholism doesn't say, hey, Matt, you know, go drink right now. Today it says, hey, you see that bottle on the table? Just read the label. Why? What the hell am I reading the label for? It's like, You know you want to see what's in the bottle. Just read the label. You know, it tries to trick me to get me into a spot at a bar to hang out where I convince myself I just won again, right? So he has that experience. And yet, boom, the overpowering thought comes over him and it goes, if you were to drink, imagine all the people that can have what you have so freely been given you. That beautiful thing that happened to you, that miracle for you, you wouldn't be able to give it to other people if you went into that bar. And immediately that thought was like, F that. And it's so beautiful, like the unselfishness of the thought. You understand? Like where it's not like, it's like people are more important than me. Like me having to carry this message is much more important than me, you know? So then they go over and he helps Bob. And then Bob and himself are like, you know what? We got to keep this spiritual thing that's going on, so we have to go give this to people. And they decide to go to a hospital that Dr. Bob got fired from, really, you know what I mean? Because he for drinking. You know, but he knew they were treating alcoholics there, so he takes Bill over there, and they meet this guy. So they go in, they talk to the nun, which you all know, and they say, hey, do you got somebody that we can help? She replied, yes, we've got a corker. He's just beaten up a couple nurses. Now, this guy is more like me than I know, you know. He just beaten up a couple nurses. Goes off his head completely when he's drinking. But he's a grand chap when he's sober, just like we are. He's been here 8 times in the last 6 months. Understand he was once a well-known lawyer in town, and just now we've got him strapped down tight. And Bill and Bob aren't like, whoa. Whoa. Like, not him. You know? They're like, him. That's the one. I'll explain in a minute. Here was a prospect, all right. I'll just tell you now. I used to work for a nonprofit. And when I worked for this nonprofit, I used to interact with some of the treatment centers around the area. And the area would call me when he had a client that needed some help, right? And when they called me, sometimes they would say, hey, Matt, we got a guy for you. You know, and I'm like, cool, what's his situation? They're like, well, I mean, he's got to get back to work. He's got a job, you know what I mean? He's like on the fence on whether he's one of us or not. And I'm like, next. And then they're like, okay, well, we got this other guy. I mean, you probably don't want him. And I'm like, what's his situation? They're like, well, he's like suicidal. He's lost everything. He don't have no place to stay. He don't even have clothes. He's been beaten down. He just left prison. And I'm like, him. Send him over. I don't want the person that still thinks he has an idea, you know? Check it out. Here's a prospect, all right, but the description none too promising, right? To us, in 2 Wise, it talks about this stuff. You know, in 2 Wise, it gives you different descriptions. It's got like alcohol number 4. You got these 2 first guys, husband number 1, husband number 2, and they're like, I mean, they're all right, but yeah. And then it says this about them, though, like their life looks a little better, but it says this about them. This person's in danger. And then it's got these 2 other guys, 3 and 4, who were hopeless, broken, lost everything, right? And it says, you can be quite hopeful in a situation like this. Ain't that crazy? On 4, it says, this picture may not be as dark as it looks. Ain't that nuts? The worse off we are, the better off we are, because now I've been beaten into a state of reasonableness. Reasonable about what? Reasonable about God. Here was a prospect, all right. We use the spiritual principles in such cases is not too well understood as it is now. We didn't know back then, you know, the more broken, the better. But one of his friends said, put him in a private room, we'll be down. 2 days later, a future fellow of Alcoholics Anonymous stared glassily at the strangers beside his bed. Who the heck are you fellows, and why this private room? I'm always in the ward. Said one of the visitors, we're going to give you a treatment for alcoholism. Hopelessness. Man, this is me. This is me. Hopelessness was written large on the man's face as he replied, "Oh, but it's no use. Don't even waste your time with someone like me. I'm going to jail, or I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison, or I'm going to be dead. And probably within like the next 30 days. Like, don't waste your time with someone like me." He said, "Nothing would fix me now. I'm a goner. The last 3 times I got drunk on the way home." Oh, man, listen, in the parking lot of Gander Hill Prison. I had all these plans and ideas. I swear I'm going to do it different. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be there for my mom. Like, I'm going to get a job. I swear, like, I'm doing everything different. I promise you, watch me. And I mean it. And in the parking lot, when I get released, I get an idea. I'm afraid to go out the door. I've been like that in prison. Like, at least here, like, my mom's not worried about me. She's not scared of what, I'm breaking into my mother's house and taking all of her things. I can't understand it. For an hour, the 2 friends told him that their drinking experiences. For an hour, the 2 friends told him about their drinking experiences. Over and over, he would say, "That's me. I drink like that too." The man in the bed was told of the acute poisoning from which he suffered. The mental and the physical thing that we just went through. How it deteriorates the body of an alcoholic and warps his mind. There was much talk about the mental state preceding the first drink. And you know what he said? "Yes, that's me." The very image, in fact. I don't see what good this would do, though. You fellas are somebody. I was once, but I'm a nobody now. I knew more now I know more than ever that I can't stop. At this, both visitors burst out laughing. That's the truth, man. Like, I'm telling people, like, yo, don't even waste your time with me. And somebody spent time they dedicated their most important asset, which was their time with me, and said, "Yo, man, don't sweat it, bro. I got you." So look, I came to Delaware, right? I was in Florida for about, 4 years, right? And when I started to go through this chapter has literally changed my life, right? And I started to think about, because I come from here, right? And from 2005, I was venturing into various different, and I'm just giving you my experience. If this wasn't your experience, that's cool. But I'm just giving you my experience with what happened to me in this area. So I was coming around in 2005 and going to various meetings. And maybe I didn't go to the right meetings. I don't know. But I didn't know what to do. I had no clue what this was about. I just knew that people told me to go to meetings. And I went to meetings. And I kept going to meetings. And I went and I went and I went. And I left a meeting. And I even rose my hand and said, "Yo, man, listen, I feel like getting drunk today. I'm telling you, like, I'm going through it. I feel like getting drunk." And people came up and they supported me, and they surrounded me, and they talked to me. And I left there and I got drunk. I still went. I didn't know about 12-step stuff. Like Tina's talking, I had no idea that this was about 12 steps. I had no clue. I'm just going to meetings and venturing, and I'm there trying to look for a chick, Like, "Oh, she's hot. What's up with you? Give me a nut. You trying to go out after the meeting?" That's what I thought this was about. How wrong I was. So when I left here, my experience with sponsorship here was just keep coming to meetings, call me every day. My experience with the fellowship here was just get a group of friends, hang tight, and don't drink no matter what. But the problem is I drink no matter what. So I'm having these sorts of experiences here. No one outlined, no one did to me what they did to Bill Dobson. No one outlined the program. No one outlined the mental deficiency of what I suffer from. No one pointed out these physical things of how I want more. No one explained, and that's the number one thing we're supposed to be talking to a newcomer about. Let me educate you to see if you like me. Does this sound like you? Does this sound like you? And if he's like this, yep. Then you probably one of us. Cool, welcome, man. But if you like, yeah, I don't, man, nah, I ain't got, excuse me. You know? And he might not, but he ain't ready, so it's like, excuse me, and I'm not going to waste my time with you. When that person back there wants it, he knows what he agrees that he suffers from that and he wants help. I'm going to chase you around. So, I had this experience, and I remember being in Florida, and I didn't have that experience in Florida. The experience that I had in Florida was profound and beautiful. And like they took me through the work. Like some guy just approached me. I didn't approach him. He approached, I remember being in a meeting, I was like, yo, man, listen, I spent most of my life in prison. I'm uneducated. I don't know what's going on. Like, yo, I need help, man. I'm going to die. And Alcoholics Anonymous meeting prays out, as you all know. And we all circled up, and I had this guy look at me. He goes like this. And I was like, the fuck is this dude pointing at? He was like, yo, I got you. And I was like, This is not the guy I want, because they tell you find somebody that has something you want. We don't know what that means. I mean, look, I come here, I don't know what you mean. Find somebody that has something I want. I'm like, does he got a nice chain, What's his watch look like? Is it a Rollie? What's his car look like? Is his girlfriend hot? Then yeah. Has he got a good job? Could he get me one? Then yeah, I can kick it with this dude. This dude looks half-ass homeless, It's so crazy. They got this image of a car, right, this beat-up car, which I used to drive. I used to drive this 2004 Chevy Malibu Max. The windows didn't go down, right? It's hot in Florida. The whole AC center console was taken out. My radio was my Bose earbuds, right? The headlight, I got pulled over 13 times. I'm not even exaggerating. 13 times for the headlight, right? And it keep going out. I keep replacing the bulb. Something was really electronically wrong with the shit, So it was all messed up, right? And my car sucked. My house, my trailer that I currently live in Florida, was bare walls. It was nothing but insulation, And they got this picture, right? And it says, when the speaker pulls up in a car like this, the meeting's going to be fine. And, people was like, yo, man, your car sucks. And I was like, but my life isn't. My life was incredible. I didn't have anything. But I'm telling you, I met this power, man, by going through this work. Someone approached me, explained this process to me, took me through the steps. And the same thing that happened to me happened to this guy. Hopelessness is written large on a man's face. He replied, oh, but there's no use, right? So then we get to the next page. Two friends spoke of their spiritual experiences and told him about the course of action. They told him about the spiritual experience and told him about the course of action that carried out. He interrupted. I used to be strong in the church, but that ain't going to fix it. I prayed to God on the hangover mornings and sworn that I was never going to touch another drop, but 9 o'clock I was boiled like an owl. Next day, found a prospect more receptive. He had been thinking it over. Maybe you're right, he said. God ought to be able to do anything. Then he added, he sure ain't do much when I was trying to fight booze off of all this racket alone. And then this is a cool reference. It says, on the third day. On the third day. the Lord gave his life to the care and direction of his creator. I don't know about your creator, mine, and I know that mine gave his life, for me. He might have came back on the third day or something like that, for me. So, after having that experience and being in Florida, and I'm trying to get to it here, I came back here. First, it was COVID. COVID hit. COVID-19 hit, and they shut everything down. Like, meetings were shut down everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere. Churches, was not letting people in. Things was like crazy. And I was like, oh my God, like, what can I do, How can I continue to carry the message? Because I was like so on fire with what God has done for my life, right? And just like I seen that God had a calling on me, and I was willing to go anywhere. My third step prayer was powerful. I'm like, listen, I'll go anywhere you want me to go for the rest of my life. And I still mean that right now. I'll go wherever you want, anytime you want. Listen, you want me to have nothing? That's okay. I'll walk butt naked with nothing to do your work. Whatever it is you want, take it. If it's not from you, take it from me. It's from you, give me more of it. I try to live my life that way. So I'm like, yo, man, oh my God, Delaware, like all my guys. And I started thinking about my friends who had the same misconception that I had for years. And I was like, how can I get to them? How can I get to them? And I started to do, I don't know if you guys remember the Northern Delaware Friends of Bill. And I started to do a book study on there because I was like, yo, I gotta get the people. I want to get them. I gotta get to my, I want to get to my people, Like, people are dying, I wasn't like, oh man, yeah, I'm sober now, I was like, oh my God, my friends, my family, like, oh my God, I gotta get to my people. What can I do? Like, what to help me, show me what to do? I need to get to people. Like, I was on fire, ready. I was like, yo, come here. Hey, come here. This shit works. Come here. To a point that I moved here. I turned my keys in at my job. And not for me. Yo, I live nice in Florida, man. It's nice there, I'm telling you. The beaches are nice. I ain't have a girl there, so I'm just saying the girls was nice. Things was nice there. But I felt it, man. I just felt it. And I came here. And I did like exactly what these guys were doing in the book. Like, they were going and starting groups, which I'm trying to do this as fast as possible. And they're starting groups, right? And they're doing all this cool stuff. And I was like, yo, I got to go to Delaware. Number one, because my brother was here, end-stage liver failure from alcoholism. And there was only 2 people that could give him partial liver transplant, me and my other brother. And that's what brought me here. So great, so selfish ass Matt. That and you. And you, Frank, like my people here, my people that I knew from prison, that I knew don't know a way out, but I didn't, it's not that I didn't trust anybody else to do it, it's just I knew that I could. And I came here and I opened up a group, and you remember, and we started a meeting over there in Ellesmere, and there was like 4 of us in a room. And they were like, this room's big enough. And I said, we're going to need the big room. And they said, no, man, there ain't no meetings like that in Delaware. I said, I know what God brought me here for. And I'm not saying this egotistically. I just know what God did in my life, and I know what he brought me here for. I know what's going on, And then it was standing room only. And now I'm in the prison, the same prison I swore I'll never go back to. Now I volunteer to go back to. I want to get to my people. I'm doing workshops in the community. I needed to, it's not for me. It's not, I don't care about getting paid. I don't care about any of that shit. I just want to help my people. I want you to find God like I found God. This thing is, Like, I can't believe he saved me. He saved me. Do you know what I've done? Do you know the harm I create? You know what I did to my mother? You know what I did to my community? My children grew up fatherless with me in prison. Do you know what I've done? And he wants me to help you. I'm all in. As we grow, so can you. Though you be but one man, with this book in your hand, we believe and hope that it contains that all you will need to begin. I was jobless and broke when I came here. I had this exact book. We know what you were thinking, and I was thinking this. You were saying to yourself, I'm jittery and alone. Like, I was honestly, this is what else came up. I was like, come on, God, Delaware? Like, I thought we was going west. Like Cali. You're jittery and alone, and you couldn't do it. I circled this. But you can. You forget that you have just now tapped into a... Thank you so much. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You forget that you have just tapped into a source of power which is much greater than yourself. Man. To duplicate with such backing that you have accomplished is only a matter of, are you willing to do it, Matt? And do you have the patience to do it? And are you willing to labor to do it? Yo, listen. They say like, yo, we don't have the ability to change like the world and all that stuff, man. But yo, you do. Yo, God don't love me no more than he loved you. He don't love you no more than he loved me neither. But this thing is so like it's just like Tina said, like I'm not here because like I'm trying to convince you. I'm not here. Y'all brought my girl with me. I'm not here trying to catch. The basket that went around is not for me. I don't care if you talk about me after this. I don't care for your reputation or what you know, your good words. Keep them because it'll just blow my head up anyway. I don't need it. Don't thank me when I leave here. It's not good for me. But I'm here because God sent me here. Yo, I'm in Florida again. And 2 weeks in, me and Brad were just talking about it in the back. I'm like, gosh, man, I messed up. You know, I got to get back to Delaware. Because I know I'm useful here. This is, like some of you are in a community of people that only you can help. Like they watched you, your friends, just like mine. I'll just speak for myself. I don't mean pointing at people. My friends have watched me disintegrate. Not just myself, but the whole entire community. I remember when I don't know if you guys, I'm sure some of you know Matt Perez, you know. And I remember going and getting him, and I was on the phone, and I was still working, and I called him, and Matt's like, who's this? And the rehab called me. And I was like, it was Matt. And he was like, no, this ain't Matt. I know Matt. Matt who? And like he's on the phone with his counselors there. And no, you know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I was like, bitch, it's me. And he was like, what? And like you could hear, and that's how I know something has changed with us. Like you know, he heard it over the phone that something had happened to me. Something had happened to me through doing these steps. Me being in a place of being willing to do them. And when I picked him up in the snow, I went and picked him up and said, I'm going to be the one to pick you up because I wanted to talk to him for the hour and a half that we had home about the mental and the physical inconsistencies that we suffered from and the same process that I found. And we're on our way home and I said, yo, I looked him dead in his eyes and I said, yo, I got away. And he was like, what you mean you got away? And I said, bro, I'm telling you, I found a way. We don't ever have, like, you know how people say, you don't have to live like that no more, you know? And you're like, fuck out, you know, whatever, dude, you know? It's convicting, you know? I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, we have a way. And I can show it to you. Like, when I go to the prison, I'm not like, hey, I've changed and you can too, you know? It's like, I give you instructions. Here's the instructions on what I did that changed my life and my perspective. Here's what built this relationship with that everybody's talking about, this spiritual experience. Here's what happened to me in order for me to gain access to power. Whatever, and you don't know what he's going to do in your life. And I don't care about helping millions of people. I just want to help the one that helps millions of people. It doesn't even, we don't need to be, you know, we're not like freaking famous in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know what I'm saying? But I do want to, like when I leave here, I just want to I want God, like when I'm at the pearly gates or whatever, I want him to say, yo, you brought a lot of people here, man. You know? And I don't want to go alone. I want you to come with me. I want to see my friends there. You know? I want to see my children there. I want to see my community there. Yo, I ate, this is crazy. I ate breakfast with a detective the other day. You know how embarrassing that would be for me to say that before? I can't let you think that I'm a cop or something like that. You ain't never going to talk about me that way. Yo, he's my friend. And we were talking about how we can help this community, the recovery community. What would be better? Like, it's just crazy what God has done in my life. And I got a lot of stuff today. And I'll be really frank with you and honest, is I felt better when I was in that 2004 Chevy Malibu Max with 300,000 miles and my walls was bare. I felt better then. I was like, man, yo, what you want, God? What's up? You know, I'm ready to go, you know? Today I'm like, I got problems, you know what I'm saying? Let me tell you the biggest problem, like today. I was like, man, do I tuck my shirt in or leave it untucked? You know? You know, is this like a dressy event? You know? Which one do I do? I can't. I go downstairs. This is true. I'm downstairs. I'm like, Mom, is it untucked or better? You know? And she's like, she said, I don't know. She was like, wherever way you want. I was like, just tell me, you know? Which way is it? I'm sick of this, you know? Like, life is so good, man. You know, it is. I hope I gave you a vision for you. This ain't something that just happened to me. Yo, I pick up one and can't stop. Who's that? Show of hands. I stop and can't stay stopped because I convinced myself to lie to myself to try again. Who's that? We suffer from the same exact thing. That's what makes us the same. I don't care what community you're from, what color you are, how much money you grew up with, rather you was out on Newcastle Ave barefooted like me or not. You know? Check this out. The same thing that happens to you happens to me when I drink or when I try to stop. This is the cool part. The same thing that happened to me when I did this will happen to you. And I'm excited to see what God does in your lives. I'm happy for what he did in mine, but I love watching the lights come on in other people's eyes and watching them go about their community and rebuild their families and their lives. Is beautiful. So I appreciate being here, man. It's always an honor to come out here and do something like this. But don't forget why we're here, you know. If you're here, and I know you are, thinking that somehow you're going to magically shift and change because you hear one of us talk, you're wrong. But find somebody here. Hopefully someone approaches you, you know, when you verify that you're new and they take you through this process. Let me do this because I know it's scary. Because when you throw this book up, it's like, oh shit, you know, that's big, you know. So let me do this. Take you through this process, you know, which will change your whole attitude and your outlook upon life. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Matthew. All right, everybody, thanks for coming tonight, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.